Some Hearthstone cards just got some sneaky changes, a handful of nerfs, and even a tiny buff as well, and we're going to talk about it.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
That's right, a patch went out today that's changing the power level on some cards, and it's flying under the radar because it wasn't really a balanced change so much as a card improvement. But if you look closely at the text in the most recent patch notes, you'll hear this. Cards that discover from a random pool no longer apply a class bonus. And if you didn't know this previously, cards that say, like, discover a mech, for instance, or discover a taunt card, like we saw with Stonehill Defender back in the day, had a bias where they were way more likely to discover class cards than neutral cards. So that's why Stonehill Defender felt like it always offered, like, Tyrion and Sunkeeper Tarim, because they were two of the only taunts in Paladin, so they tended to show up really, really often, more so than, like, garbage neutral taunts like Silverback Patriarch. And most recently, that's been true with cards like Dr. Boom Mad Genius and Delivery Drone, where you get way more warrior mechs like Omega Devastator than you get neutral mechs. But that's going to be changing. It reads, as Discover pools have gotten more specific, some are too narrow and repetitive. In other words, they get Omega Devastator every single turn. This change will increase the variety of cards from random Discover pools. So that means they will get Skaterbot way more often now, and far fewer Omega Devastators. So that means a lot of cards are actually being changed with this update, because there are a ton of Discover cards, but not all Discover cards are being impacted negatively. In fact, there are some you won't even notice the difference. This is basically a non-change to a card that discovered a spell or discovered from a predefined pool. So this is a list of 8 of the most played discovered cards in standard format right now that won't be changing at all. These discover things that aren't impacted. Spells are always class cards, so there was no bias to class cards in a spell discover pool. They'll be exactly the same. Some of these are limited pools like lackeys or hero powers that obviously aren't adjusted. Tortolan Pilgrims from your deck, so that's a predefined pool as well. So these are going to be exactly the same. The power level on these won't be adjusted at all, but of course, some cards are going to feel the impacts of this change. Namely, it's like the Warrior Bunch. So we have Dr. Boom's Delivery Drone, now going to be discovering way more random neutral mechs. Omega Assembly going to be discovering way more neutral and often worse mechs. Frightened Flunky will be far less likely to get another Frightened Flunky or a Tomb Warden. This is a huge nerf to Frightened Flunky. Part of the reason it's played right now is because of that consistency. There are, or Armageddillo, of course, I forgot too. There are 3 really good taunts in Warrior that are amazing for Control Warrior right now. Frightened Flunky is very likely to get one of them. Now he's not going to be that likely. He's going to be getting a lot of Silverback Patriarchs and a bunch of random garbage neutral taunts. So Frightened Flunky goes from like a 5-star card to, I don't even know if he's played anymore. Maybe just because he's a body and can still hit Armageddillo and stuff, but much, much weaker card. And then Archivist Elysiana is getting worse for Warrior as well, predominantly played in Warrior despite being a neutral card. Because before, she would find like a lot of Dynamatics and Omega Devastators. Now she's going to be more likely to find neutral cards. She will technically be slightly more likely to find another Archivist Elysiana, because that's a neutral card, but that's still so incredibly rare because there's such a large pool of cards that that's not really going to make much of a difference. Now, finally, the last card on this list here, Power of Creation, I think it's actually getting a slight buff. It's not getting nerfed. This discovers 6 cost minions, right, and then you summon copies of those. And that meant that Mage minions got a bias in this pool. The 6 cost Mage minions right now are Reno the Relicologist, Toki Time Tinker, which were both okay results. But then you also had Meteorologist and Arcanosaur, the 3/3s that were the worst results in the pool. And both of those 3/3s are going to be pulled out of the likelihood. They're going to be way less likely to get than before, which means you're going to have a slight tiny buff to your choices. You're going to get more likely, you know, damage Stegatrons, those sorts of things that are really high rolls, more likely to get a Cairn, although very small increase. Now, that's still a pretty minor thing because previously you could just kind of ignore those and take whatever good minion was there. It was unlikely you got like a trio of really, really bad things. So very, very minor buff, but still noteworthy because it is making the pool, I would argue, just a little bit better. All in all, Warrior getting, I think, a substantial nerf here, and a welcome one, because I hated playing against like 47 Omega Devastators personally. Now, I will say that Warrior already got nerfed, right, with Dr. Boom going to 9 mana. I wonder if Blizzard had just waited on this change, if that might have been enough of an impact to Warrior, because Warrior did lose a lot of percentage points as far as win rate's concerned because of those nerfs. Now, I'm not saying that's too much. I think we'll just keep an eye on it, but this is going to kind of pile on a little bit. They may fall a little too far. You know, you don't want to kill decks or classes completely. Aggro Warrior might be fine anyway, so I'm not saying Warrior as a class will die, but that could be a little bit scary if it goes too far. But ultimately, I think I do like this change. It just makes these things feel less consistent and predictable when you're playing against them. Like, often seeing a Discover come down was like a dreaded moment. It's like, oh god, he's got Delivery Drone, he's gonna get exactly what he needs. I think this takes those feel bad moments away. It introduces a little bit more randomness, and although randomness in and of itself isn't necessarily a good thing, randomness like this is, because it's already a random pool. So this is basically creating more things to play against, more new moments in games, making people think in different ways. That's the right kind of randomness, right? Those are the kinds of randomness we want to see in Hearthstone. So I ultimately think this is a good change. It's going to be impactful to consider moving forward with Discover cards as well, because, you know, we've got some stuff in Wild. Stonehill Defender got worse, but we've also got new cards that'll be coming that'll be Discover inevitably as well. So as we consider the power level of Discover moving forward, this probably does reduce the power level in many cases on average. So curious how the keyword is going to compensate for that in the future. But ultimately, probably a good change. Nerf to Warrior. Most cards aren't impacted. I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think this is necessary? A good change? Did Warrior deserve another hit? Are you playing Warrior? You're going to be really sad not to play your Fright and Flunkies. I gave Fright and Flunky 5 stars in my card reviews. I think he already got to that mark. We're very, very close to, so it's okay if he gets nerfed now. I don't care. He proved himself. But I'm curious what you guys have to say about this one. I think this could be hotly debated amongst the community. So your opinions are going to go a long way. Share those in the comments below. But until then, thank you so very much for watching. And until next time, game on.